What's going on, everyone? Desktop's Gaming here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have something pretty neat sent over from Bitfenix. Going to do a build today in a classic return. This is the Prodigy M2022 ARGB edition. This is a case that's been around for a while. This is a revamp of that case along with some of their Alchemy PSU cables. And this is a little different today. We're doing an MATX build. You don't see these very often anymore. And the most exciting part, other than the Ryzen 5 5600X going in here, is this finally arrived. An RTX 3070 Ti. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so before we get into all the fun new GPU stuff, we do got to dive into the case first. Like I said, this is one Bitfenix launched, oh God, it's been years ago now. But this is, like I said, a kind of a return to form, return to classic here. Like I said, this is the Prodigy M2022 edition. I'll go ahead and, if I can cut here, I'm going to open this guy up. There we go. I'm going to unbox him today and go over everything up close and personal with this case. So I got to get it out first. All right, so now that we've gotten it out of its box here, we can start going over some of the panels and panel setup. Like I said, as it goes on the front, we do have the option for this little front tempered glass here. Then going around to the back side here, or I guess what would be the side display of the case here. Just have two thumb screws in the back, and those are pretty snug. You do have to be a little careful when removing this one. This does have I/O on the side, and it is wired to the panel. So if we just go along the side here, we do have two USB 3, USB Type-C, it's like a 3.1 there, microphone headphone jack by split, we've got power button and reset button. So we'll go ahead and remove these two thumb screws. The front panel, like I said, you would just pop these thumb screws off and then just kind of give a little push here from the front. And then all of these will come out together. So all your front panel connectors are connected on a separate little PCB on the side there. All right, so that gets all the panels off. We have dust filters here at the top, as well as the bottom of the case. We do have intake down there as well. We'll go ahead and remove those for now. And let's see, that covers all of the panels and dust filters. Like I said, this is the Prodigy M2022 ARGB edition, so there is some pre-installed fans. It does come with their Spectre fans here. We have, you know, how this case is oriented. It's kind of an inverted chassis case, because if we look at the logo here in the front, that is the, you know, upright side of the case. So we would have some intakes here at the bottom, an exhaust here, and the motherboard would actually be flipped, so the GPU is actually going to be sitting up here. And I was really impressed with the form factor of this. You don't really get to work with micro ATX much. It's kind of ATX, and then you have your small form factor, which I'd consider this a pretty small footprint. This would be a great, you know, like a LAN party system. Oh God, I just dated myself. LAN party's still a thing. But with this one, you know, micro ATX definitely doesn't get a whole lot of love because it's kind of a cut down, shorter ATX. But anyway, moving on. So with the pre-installed fans, you do get 3 ARGB fans from Bitfenix. They're Spectre ARGB fans here. So like I said, this is an inverted chassis. And oh, well, it looks like there is another fan here. We actually do have a small, looks like 80mm fan in the back there, set to intake. That's interesting. We'll definitely have to get some close-ups where you guys can see that. It's definitely an interesting little fan there in the back. We'll probably, given the room and where the PCIe slots will be for this Gigabyte 3070 Ti we're putting in, we'll likely have to remove that for it to fit the link, because it will fit, you know, if the measurements as far as Bitfenix allowed here and what the cards were, but we likely will have to remove that little front fan. It's just the cutest little fan. I guess if you had a shorter card, it would definitely help, I suppose. I may have to test it at another date with, say, a shorter GPU where we'd have room to see if it would help move some air in. Now, of course, for this here, you would have some intake and exhaust here. And then, of course, like I said, this would be open at the top. And Bitfenix does offer this to be open, because this is where you would typically have your extra fan mounts and radiator mounts here at the top of the case. But I guess if you didn't, they do offer with this kit, move the little tempered glass side panel out of the way. This little piece here is a piece of plexi that can go in its place. We'll just likely have to take this off, and we'll go over that orientation when we get to that point, but I just want to touch on that right now. All right, so like I said before, for motherboard support, like this guy will do micro ATX up and mini ITX systems. Let's see, it won't go anything above that. Looks like we're already installed for, looks like mini ITX, so it looks like we'll have to install some extra standoffs, because like I said, I do want to go with this micro ATX board today. But like I said, you would have the ability to do mini ITX if you wanted a little more system in here, or a little smaller system in here. But like I said, I wanted to use the micro ATX today to kind of fill out the case and show you what you can pack into a footprint pretty small. All right, now we'll touch on, let's touch on hard drive and SSD support. So if we go around to the back here, we do have room to mount some 3.5 inch and 2.5 inch drives here on the back. Looks like you have room for 2.5 inch here. And I believe it's probably about all you could get away with. And so I'll definitely have to check over the manual here in a bit and be sure, but looks like just looking over first impressions here, you can mount one here and one here on this back bracket. I don't see any other mounting positions. Like I said, I'm boxing this the first time with you guys. We're gonna have this pre-installed fans. You do have support for, let's see, up to 120s here at the bottom. And it looks like you have support for 120s and 140s here at the top of the case. It looks like you know, you have the the little 80mm fan there in the back. So I mean, I guess it does have support for maybe a 120. It looks like a 120 could mount right there, or that may be extra 3.5 inch drive space. I'll have to double check with that. Like I said, boxing this for the first time with you guys to do a build in it today. But one thing I did like about this case, being it's a a smaller form factor case, is the option for power supplies. So if we go over to the bottom of the case here, you have the option for a small form factor SFX power supply, or this has a bracketing system where you can still use a full-size ATX power supply. So we're going to try to get away with that today and fit a full-size ATX in here. I definitely appreciate Bitfenix trying to do that. Looks like we have to remove, let's see, I believe this cutout, and you have to route the little pass-through cable that goes to the back a little differently, but we'll consult the manual and see how hard that is to do. But it gives you options to do both. Really like the fact that you can get away with using either a small form factor if you need, say, a little more room in the case, or an ATX power supply. And we should be able to get away with everything we're going to put in here today, even with the ATX power supply. Like, so we'll just have to do a little better cable management, because typically those cables are a little longer. We'll be using some of Bitfenix's sleeve cables today, but like I said, typically those are a little bit longer, so we'll have to play around with some cable management. But I like the fact that you can put a full-size ATX power supply in it, because typically SFX power supplies can be a lot more expensive than your typical ATX power supplies. The same wattage, same rating, just because it is a smaller, less produced unit. All right, now for the fun part. This guy does have support for up to a 339mm GPU up at the top, so we should have no problem throwing in that Gigabyte 3070 Ti Gaming OC Edition. Like I said, we'll likely have to remove, like I said earlier, that little fan in the back to have enough room where it doesn't butt against that. But like I said, definitely plenty of room up the top for the GPU here, and it shouldn't be too bad to get airflow to it. So we'll definitely see what that's looking like once we get everything installed. And we'll do some thermal test of GPU, because that's what I'm more concerned about. I don't think CPU, the 5600X, is going to be too big of an issue in this. And I may do a separate video on thermal testing. We'll just do a build today and kind of go over some of the features of the case. But I'm definitely interested and like the fact that you can pretty much fit a full-fat GPU in here, and it still carries a pretty small footprint in comparison to, say, a full-size ATX system. Also included in this kit is something pretty interesting. We do have the option for a vertical GPU mounting bracket here in the case. So we went over before, where normally in the standard orientation it would be horizontal up top here, and we would just remove this little fan to fit that full-size GPU up here at the kind of top of the case. So Bitfenix did provide the option, if you want to, you can actually remove this back fan panel here and replace it with a vertical GPU mounting bracket. So I'll show you guys what that looks like real quick. So if we don't want to go up here with it in its normal mounting position, you can with the included bracket here. We can take and pop this into this little fan bracket here, so you can actually mount it on the bottom front of the case. So you can just unscrew this little bracketing system here. This will go in its place, and it would give you PCIe mounting slots right here at the front of the case. Now that would put us pretty close to the front side panel, so I'm likely going to stick with the top mount for today. I don't want to put a GPU that has a pretty thick shroud with three triple fan slot card all the way up against this front tempered glass, because we'll just choke those off, so to have a lot more opportunity for airflow here at the top of the case. But it's very neat. Bitfenix provides that with the kit, so if you're ambitious enough to go through and say maybe if you want to water cool and put a water block on a GPU you're installing it here, where it doesn't matter if you get it right up close to the glass and it looks cool, you know, I'd say go for it. Otherwise, like I said, I think we'll be sticking with the top mount for today, because that'll be just fine. Should definitely provide us more opportunity for airflow close to the top of the case like that. I believe that covers pretty much everything in the case. Like I said, we're gonna go over and probably time lapse this build real quick. So if you guys wanna enjoy a build with the Ryzen 5 5600X, the 3070 Ti gaming OC from Gigabyte, and something a little different, that micro ATX case, stick around and we'll jump right into building. All right, and there it is, guys. The build is complete. Hopefully you enjoyed the epic build-tage there. Like I said, everything came together pretty nicely, I'd say. For the astute of you in the video, if you watched that little build-tage through, I did end up going with an air cooler instead. Like I said, I was gonna do that Arctic at the top, doing a 240 AO at the top. That really works really well if you're going to vertically mount the GPU, and I just really didn't want to vertically mount the GPU in this setup. Like I said, it just wasn't enough room to mount it up here. I believe even if you had something pretty slim, it ended up choking off the card a good bit, so just ended up swapping it back to that AS500 here from Deepcool. It's great, should be perfect for that 5600X in there. If you guys want to, this is more so just a video to show off the case and its features today. I can come back if you guys drop a comment down below, let me know if you want to see what the thermals are like inside of this case. Like I said, I'll definitely make another video on it. Other than that, I just want to show you guys something a little different in this micro ATX form factor, since it's not something very commonly seen. But as you can see, the 3070 Ti fit perfectly there at the top. Like I said, it was a little bit of a puzzle getting it in there, had to angle it just right to get it to fit, but it does fit just fine. We could probably go maybe a touch longer, but I would say this would be about the max I'd be comfortable going to be able to get it in and out of the case with no problem. So yeah, guys, like I said, definitely drop a comment down below if you want to see some thermals and more updates of this. Right now, we have to turn it on. So let's go ahead and click it on. And it looks like everything is lighting up, glowing nicely. Fans are spinning. The build is done. So yeah, guys, I got one more thing to do. Got some close-ups to show you guys and a peel to do on the front panel. So let's get that front panel on. All right, here we go, the best part. There we are. Now we can go ahead and take a closer look at the case there. Like I said, it's have a little bit of reflection now that we put the glass on, but that's fine. Like I said, went with that AS500 up top. You can see it's, this is not a super giant air cooler. It does have a 140 fan, but the spacing was pretty close between there. So definitely you want to keep that in mind if you're using a, I'd call this a 2.5 slot card, and you know, an air cooler of this size. It's a little taller. So like I said, definitely keep that in mind if you're gonna air cool in a build like this. not a ton of a gap there, but like I said, I'll do that video on thermals if you guys want to see how this case came out. So we just have the mesh panel in the front here. We did have to remove that small little 60mm fan here from the front to get the GPU to fit. It would probably be a little noisy anyway. Like I said, I'd definitely, I'll maybe test that out once we do the thermal video if you guys want to see that, and maybe put a smaller card in here just to see if that fan makes a difference. So yeah, I mean, going around the case, I think it came out very nicely. Like I said, definitely a different orientation and layout. I could definitely see traveling, you know, with a build like this. Not quite as small as, say, an ITX system I could assemble, but like I said, definitely, you know, I can still pack a little more power into something like this and not have to worry about thermals as much, and maybe get a little higher end hardware in this with decent cooling without going mini ITX. So I could definitely see this as a pretty good travel system. You can see we have the output, the GPU there, and then motherboard IO there. So definitely different orientation than what a lot of cases will have. But yeah, guys, like I said, if you want to see more on this as far as thermal performance and everything, definitely let me know down in the comments below. And I appreciate you guys stopping by today and checking out the build and the new Bitfenix Prodigy M2022 ARGB edition. Like I said, I think it was definitely a nice return to form, return to kind of a classic here with modern revamps. And like I said, I'm definitely happy to have it and happy to have built it. But yeah, guys, appreciate you guys stopping by, checking out the video. Take it easy.